Imagine getting up every day full of energy as if you were in your 20s again. What would that be like? What would it be worth to you? What is your health worth to you? Think about it. Your health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. And yet, too many of us are taking it for granted until something goes wrong. And no one wakes up hoping to be diagnosed with a disease or chronic illness. And yet, we've never been taught how to be proactive in our health through our school or public health. As a registered health coach and integrative health practitioner, I believe it's time this information is made available to everyone. Combining new knowledge around your health and the ability to do my functional medicine lab tests in the comfort of your own home will allow you to optimize your health for today and all your tomorrows. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Welcome back to another episode of the Don't Wait for Your Wake-up Call podcast. I am Melissa Deely, your host, and I am here today with Joseph Dubois, aka JD, and I'm super excited to have him on the show. Welcome to the show, JD.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here.
And let me just introduce you to the audience here, because this is a slightly different show that my audience might not expect. They can see from the background, if they're watching the video, that you are from Freedom Biker Tours. And I love what you're doing with freedom biking. And I think it's incredibly inspiring. And this is why I'm having you on the show, to help people heal. And of course, that's what my show is all about, healing. So Joseph has always been an explorer, never really fit into any sort of mold, so to speak. And he always felt an urge and that need to get out and do things, see the world, seeing the landscapes and experiencing other cultures and learning about them. And he believes in asking why. And of course, if anybody's tuned into my recent episodes, you know that that is my favorite question, and also never judging. Love that too. He was raised by an officer and a gentleman. His father, who he lost in 2021 at 99 years old, was a World War II veteran, and he spent 30 years in the Royal Canadian Air Force. And JD has been riding motorcycles ever since he was a young man. And JD, I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to ask you to pick up there and share your story of how you got into riding motorcycles as a young man and how that has culminated in where you're at today with Freedom Biker Tours.
Well, that's a long story. I don't know if we have 30 to 45 minutes is long enough to...
The Cole's Notes version.
Okay, I'll do the best I can. Well, I started off as a teenager and a young man riding dirt bikes. We're indestructible when we're that age. So, whipping around on dirt bikes and jumping around and flying around was a fun thing. And then I got into riding street bikes as well. My first street bike was what was it? It was a Yamaha 650 Midnight Special. It was my first street bike. And I think I was 20 years old when I bought it, or 21 or something like that. And I was pretty much smitten at that point. And, I rode for many, many years, but then I got married and had a family. And I was told that riding motorcycles when you had children really isn't the thing you should be doing. From my
I'm sure many people have heard that.
Yeah, so my ex-wife told me that. So I didn't ride for a while, but then when I relocated to the Okanagan back in 2006, when I started my own tourism consulting firm and bought an old rundown campground and RV park beside the beach there in Summerland, I got back into it, and I bought a Harley Davidson and joined the Okanagan Hog chapter, which is Harley Owners Group. And that's when it really took it to the next level for me. It was the people and the motorcycle community and culture, specifically with Harley Owners Group. And that's where I really started to realize that I'd found my place. And not my place is in my physical place. My place is in my community, my culture. Right?
Yes.
the people in the motorcycle community and motorcycle culture are the most friendly, giving people that you'd ever want to meet in your life. The whole Hollywood thing, about motorcycle gangs and violence and all that stuff. Well, that's just a bunch of bunk.
It sells
Um,
movies. And I was just going to draw that same comparison
yeah, it
to
does. It sells
hear
movies.
the
Yeah,
way you talk about the community versus what we've been programmed to believe
yeah.
by the movies are very different, which is the case in so many things in life. So I love to hear it from you, the insider.
And isn't it kind of sad that violence and that kind of stuff sells movies?
Yes, it is.
Like
It
really,
is. We're
like
promoting it to sell movies versus,
right.
yeah,
And this is one
living
of the
life a
reasons
different way.
why we're doing that documentary film project in the Maritimes about motorcycling, the healing landscapes, right? Is because, and that's why 10 years ago, when I did my master's degree in tourism management, my graduate degree, my thesis was on motorcycle tourism and biker culture because I wanted to dispel that stereotype
Mm-hmm.
and really engage and understand and learn about the biker culture and community, and really so I could tell people, I could do things like this podcast and tell people that, hey, I'm a biker, that's awesome, but the other half of my life I wear a suit, right?
And let's just talk about that for a moment, too, because I've traveled with you for years now. I can't even count how many years in and out of different countries in the tourism industry
Yeah.
and seen you in the suit. And I had no idea that you were also a biker until we recently connected at a tourism event and just started chatting. And this all came out. And you mentioned the word throttle therapy to me, which I loved. And that was the inspiration to having you come on the podcast. And as I said at the beginning, this is a very different type of guest that I have on my podcast in one sense, in that people might be like, a biker on a health show? Huh? And yet there is connection, and it's very deliberate in having you be here.
Well, thank you. And yeah, the connection is it's always been there. And how motorcycling actually got started, well, not motorcycling getting started, but motorcycle clubs, motorcycle associations, the actual recognition of that there's a therapeutic aspect to motorcycling, and to the culture and the community. It started after the Second World War because all the veterans, especially the combat veterans, needed an outlet
Mm-hmm.
for their, it wasn't called PTSD back then, but that's what it was.
Right.
And they found comfort in getting together with their comrades that they used to
Mm-hmm.
be fighting with or whatever with under all that stress, and riding motorcycles. And there was also an abundance of leftover motorcycles after the war because the army used, Harley Davidsons and Indians and all that motorcycles to, for scouting and couriers and all that kind of stuff, right? So those two things came together, and these guys found an outlet that way, and it just grew from there, right? And
And
then
what a beautiful, healthy outlet
absolutely. It was
versus some of the other outlets that people choose in order to numb from the PTSD.
right. Like
And that,
drugs or alcohol or whatever, right? This was much more of a healthy approach. Absolutely.
yeah. And it's so true that we as humans, we were never meant to do life alone. And we thrive in community. And we thrive in the communities where we find those like minded, like hearted souls. The people that, as you mentioned earlier, we feel at home with because they understand you and you understand them, and you can show up as your authentic self.
Yep.
And
That's
nobody's judging you, to your point earlier.
that's the whole brotherhood sisterhood thing, because people always joke about bikers and they call each other brother. Well, hello.
Right.
There it is right there, right?
Exactly.
Brotherhood. And you form those attachments and that camaraderie there. And so I find myself, my friends in the motorcycle world referring to them as right on, brother. it just happens now. It's been doing it for so long, right? It's a normal thing for me, right, to do it. And I've even started to carry that over a little bit in my I don't want to say my more professional life, but maybe my suit life in the hospitality industry for my hotel in Banff that I work for as well, right? That I still refer to people as brother, and I kind of shake my head sometimes and go, well, yeah, they're not a biker, but I still think of them like that, right?
Right.
I'm
And
close with them.
that's another community, because the tourism community is also very close knit. And
Yeah,
so you're just, as you show up as your authentic self, you're bringing the two together. So
absolutely. Yeah.
let's talk about, as like any human being, you've gone through your personal and your professional struggles. Let's talk about how throttle therapy and freedom bikers has been so healing for you personally.
Throttle therapy is a term that I discovered through the year and a half long labor of love research for my thesis, right? And it's actually out there. There's a few different definitions of throttle therapy. I'm going to try and remember one of them now. My favorite one, it's actually on the website, and I used it in my thesis. It's throttle therapy is a term for that feeling of euphoria that you get when riding a motorcycle that equates with that same feeling for using prescription or illicit drugs. And I thought that was just the funniest thing I'd ever heard, but it's actually very meaningful as well because it's true. And because what throttle therapy does when you're riding a motorcycle, riding a motorcycle forces you to focus
Mm-hmm.
and focus on one thing,
Right.
right? So it really clears your mind,
Yes.
frees your mind,
Yes.
right? And that
Yes.
because if you're not focused when you're riding a motorcycle, you're in big trouble,
Exactly.
right? So that's the motorcycling in of itself is a form of meditation because you are focusing. You're so focused on what you're doing, right? And it relaxes all the other thoughts and all the other parts of your brain that maybe, when you're not riding are going in 15 different directions, right?
Right. So in my work, we talk about the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. It's getting out of that constant thinking craziness of your monkey mind, which is your conscious mind, and
Yeah.
allowing you to drop into your unconscious mind, which actually is the 90% of your mind and has
Yeah.
access to more resources. And when you're riding or driving, in fact, just living your life, if you can get into your unconscious mind 95% of your day, you're also getting into your parasympathetic nervous system much more often, and you're getting out of that stress state. And when we stop the thinking, that's powerful, because another aspect of the work I do is from the work of Sydney Banks, which is a different arm of psychology to Freud. And his work is called the 3 Ps. And the 3 Ps come down to mind, consciousness, and thought.
Mm.
And it's like there's a little triangle of the three, right? And he teaches that it's the thought that is creating whatever it is that's going on in your life. And if we just stop thinking the thought and we let it float on by like a cloud and we don't ruminate on it, and we bring in a more empowering thought, then we can shift our mindset, shift our mental health. And it's easy to say. And when we work with people and they can get that insight of shifting that thought, it's incredibly powerful. And this is what you're talking about. When we focus, we're letting go of all of those negative thoughts that we ruminate on so that we can focus on the road. And I believe feeling the wind in your hair is incredible too.
Oh yeah. And, you're smelling it's the old another quote that I found in my research was it's the reason why a dog sticks its head out the car window. Only a
Right.
biker understands that,
Yes,
right?
I love that. I love that
Because
analogy.
it's actually my supervising professor for my thesis thought he's a motorcyclist as well, and he thought that was the coolest quote he'd ever seen, right, in his entire life. But interestingly enough, I always say to people, there's one time in my day when I do some of my best critical thinking, and that's when I'm at the gym exercising.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really kind of weird, but when I'm riding my motorcycle, I've got to the point now where I'm not doing a lot of critical thinking because I am focusing, but at the same time, that subconscious brain, I have come up with some of the most amazing ideas
Yes.
while I'm riding. Because
Yes.
Carmen will attest to that. Because I'll just reach back to her and go, "Hey, what do you think of this?" And that, and she'll go, "Wow!" And that because my brain is relaxed
Yes.
while
You
I'm
got out of
riding.
your conscious mind,
That's
right?
right,
And
exactly.
because the
So
unconscious mind has access to the higher self, which has all the resources for our perfect blueprint of health, our perfect life of what we need, when we get, and the conscious mind doesn't connect to the higher self. We have to go through the unconscious. So when we get out of the conscious and into the unconscious, we're opening up that channel.
yeah,
And that's where we get those ahas or the downloads. And it's a beautiful thing. It happens in the shower, it happens when driving, it happens when we're asleep, right? And so, of course, it happens when you're out on the road riding your bike.
yeah, yeah. I'm free, I'm relaxed, I'm in my place. I'm
Yeah.
in my comfort zone. I'm in my happy place. Is one of my buddies who rides is what he calls it. He goes,
Yeah.
let's go have some time in our happy place today, JD. He goes, right, and we go up for a ride together, right? So, but you mentioned authenticity earlier,
Mm-hmm.
so I thought I'd talk about that for a second.
Yes.
Freedom Biker Tour's corporate values are the
Mm-hmm.
same as mine. They're my values personally as well. And authenticity is number one. And over the years, through my education and through my experience in the business world, I've learned how important being your authentic self really is. And along with the authenticity piece is acceptance. That's the second value that I really hold dear, and is also the value of Freedom Biker Tours. And what that means is don't judge,
Mm-hmm.
right? Don't
Mm-hmm.
judge. That's where the ask why comes in,
Yes.
right? And
Get
that's where
curious.
I raised my daughter to always not judge. Because when she was younger, she'd like, "Dad, why are they doing that over there?" I'm like, "Well, no, it's a different cultural thing. Why don't you find out why they're doing it first before you decide whether it's good or bad from your perspective, right?" And even if you decide, okay, I get why they're doing it, but I don't like it, well, that's fine. You don't have to do it. You don't have to like it, but
Exactly.
don't form negative thoughts about it because in their culture, it's important to them,
Right.
right? So don't
Mm-hmm.
judge, right? Then the third value is freedom. And it's not freedom from oppression or anything like that. It's the freedom of the open road. It's that
Yes.
freedom feeling you get when all of your senses are heightened.
Yes.
You feel the sun on you, you feel the wind, you smell everything, you hear everything when you're riding, right?
Yes.
That's the freedom, right?
Yes.
That's the freedom of the open road. Which way do I want to go, left or right? Well, I've never been down either one. Well, let's flip a coin and go this way. That's freedom, right? And then there's the brotherhood, sisterhood thing, which we've already touched on, right? Those are the four main core values of Freedom Biker Tours, and they're also my personal values. I really, really think, and this is one of the things that we've talked on the world since the COVID pandemic, but the world is such a crazy place and it's so dynamic. And I kind of use this analogy, what happened with COVID or during COVID, from a social perspective, from an
Mm-hmm.
economic perspective. I call the world a snow globe. Somebody took a snow globe and they went like this with it and they started shaking it like crazy and they haven't stopped.
Yep.
And we're all trying to figure out exactly what's going on out there in the world, right? Economically, socially, militarily, politically, which I don't want to get into political conversations at all right now. But my point is that, the message that I personally am trying to convey through Freedom Biker Tours is enough's enough. let's get back to our humanity. Let's get back to our authentic selves
Yes.
and accepting each other
Yes.
and through the healing nature of motorcycling and the camaraderie and the brotherhood that motorcycling and that culture brings, because we sorely need it in the world today.
I agree. And it's funny you mentioned the snow globe because
Oh,
I have two right here that I use in my training all the time. And it comes back to the three P's that I was talking about before, the three principles. And we say the exact same thing. When it's shaken up, there is no clarity.
no. Yeah.
And the mind is just the monkey mind. And then when we put it down and we just let it settle, that's when now we can actually read what's in the message
Excellent.
or
I love
have
that. Yeah.
the download come through. And you're absolutely right that, during the pandemic, the world got shaken up like the snow globe. And it's time to settle and calm and ground
Yeah.
and come back to what's truly important for all of humanity.
The pandemic was just the most recent occasion. I mean, you can look back to all the different conflicts in the world. You can look back to the recession of 2008, 2009. It can be military, it can be political, it can be economic, it can be health oriented, like the pandemic. There's so many different things in history, and it's going to happen again.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Absolutely.
the world is what the world is, but the message that I'm trying to convey again through Three and Biker Tours is that we are a global culture.
Yes.
The internet, communication, everything has brought us to this point, and it's just so important for everybody to understand that we are a global culture. We're all one human race, and then all this posturing and negativity and stuff that's out there right now, it needs to stop. It really does, right?
It absolutely does. And one of the quickest ways, honestly, to have it stop for you, the listener, is just turn off the news.
That's funny. I
Turn
haven't
off the
watched the
news.
news. I think over the Christmas holidays I may have watched it once or twice, the news, but really I yeah. I
Again,
wait for my in-laws, my father-in-law to tell me what's going on.
and I was fortunate. I went to a school pack meeting when my oldest daughter, who's now 26, was in like grade 2. And at the pack meeting, they had experts come in and say, turn off the news. And I thought, oh my goodness, then I won't know what's going on in the world. I'll feel ignorant. And yet I did it because they had very good and valid points for turning it off. Namely, that the news is designed to draw you in, to have you watch it. And they do that with drama. They do that with escalating the story. They do that with escalating the music or the sound, because then your brain tunes in because this might be dangerous and you have to watch. And then that puts you into your fight or flight state. And if you're doing that every single day, then you're just living in chronic stress, which most of the world is living in even before COVID, which is really negatively impacting people's health because it starts to destroy your immune system, your gut health, amongst other things. And so when we can get out of that, that's when we get to start experiencing healing. And so to your point, getting on a bike and riding on the open road, feeling the wind in your hair and having your senses all, hyper alert in a positive way is incredibly healing. And again, you're tapping into the unconscious mind and you're getting into your parasympathetic rest and digest system. And to do that for an hour a day or several hours on the weekend and release the pent up stress from the week is so healing. And I love the idea of what you're doing and offering tours, not just tourism tours to just go ride the country for fun. Your tours go deeper than that.
Yeah. The healing aspect is really important. The messaging is really important. But, our tours are, I mean, you and I are both tourism industry veterans, right? And, I've pretty much done everything in the travel, tourism, and hospitality industry in my 40-year career. So, I'm also a professional, and I've designed Freedom Biker Tours programs with a specific intent in mind.
Hmm.
And the bottom line is they're vacation packages, not just getting on a motorcycle, riding all day, having a burger and a beer that night, getting up the next day and doing it again. No, it's the same type of product you would get on a bus tour. You want to go to England and you want to do a bus tour vacation for 10 days or something and go ride around England, you're gonna have accommodations, meals, attractions, activities, all that's going to be included. My stuff is the same, except we are cage free, which is a motorcycle term, which means we ride motorcycles. We're not in a bus, right? So that's how our programs are designed, and there's nobody else out there doing it like that. So from a tourism perspective, it's a real unique niche market opportunity, and I love it like that, right? I really do. But to take the whole healing thing to another level, I'm gonna tell you something right now. I've had two serious motorcycle accidents in my life. One was almost 14 years ago now, and I had an accident, and it was the other person's fault, and it was very undramatic. But I broke bones, ribs, collarbone, you name it, and it hurt like hell and all that. But you know what? I attacked my rehab. I healed 100%, and I got right on a bike right after that and got back on the road again. Right. And then how many years ago now? 9 years ago now, this April coming up, I had another accident, and it was entirely the other person's fault. And that one was very dramatic. Like, honestly, I should be dead or, you know, handicapped or something. I should be. And that, but really, no bones broken, nothing. Major concussion. I have chronic neck, back, and shoulder issues for life and that kind of thing. But the motorcycle was a write-off. The car was a write-off. Everything. But I got right back on the bike again. I actually bought another bike with the insurance payout from the first motorcycle, and bought a brand new bike, and got out there again and started riding. And to demonstrate what the motorcycle community is like, on the anniversary, 1 year anniversary of the accident, the next April, a bunch of my Okanagan hog brothers and sisters showed up at my front door and said, "Let's go." Because they knew I was a bit freaked out, I mean, getting back in the saddle again and that kind of thing. And they took me out there. But you know what? Within the first couple of months of that riding season, I was good to go. And it was just onwards and upwards again, right? And that's when I really started researching the how to heal. And beyond the motorcycle healing therapeutic aspect of riding, that's when I started reading a lot of books about meditation and self-help and mindfulness and all that good stuff, right? And that's what's led me to where I am now, is I meditate almost every day. And it's really helped me understand interpersonal relationships. And honestly, it's what got me into the relationship I'm in today with Carmen, which is the most amazing relationship I've ever had in my life. Right? She's my person,
Hmm.
and I've never been happier than that. Right? It took me a long time to find that person, but hey, and it's weird how we found each other. It was through motorcycling that we found each other. you
Right.
know
And that's why she's your person, because there's
yeah,
that deep common connection.
yeah. She'd never
And
been on a bike until we met.
oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, she'd never been on a bike till we met, and it was a fluke that we met, and that's a whole other story. But I just said to her, "Why don't you hop on the back of my bike?" The day after we met, and she did, and she's never gotten off. And that takes us full circle right around to the whole thing about her healing from her trauma she's had in her life, and why we're doing this documentary film project, and the healing aspects and all that stuff. So yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your story. And I love your healing journey because I know that you can actually look back at that accident that was so dramatic and even the one before and have gratitude for the fact that that happened because it put you on your healing journey that got you to where you are so that you could learn the mindfulness that you needed to learn, become the person you are supposed to be, and as a result, meet Carmen.
You're bang on, and I recently I've thought that myself too, and I've in some of my meditations I thought to myself that really was a big catalyst in my life. You
Yeah.
know, it was a super negative thing that scared the living out of me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and and I had nightmares and you know I saw therapists afterwards for a few years and all that because of the trauma of the accident. But you're right. It was a big part of putting me on the journey I've been on in the last decade to become the human being that I am now with the values that I have and the goals that I have and how I deal with my relationships both professionally and personally. Absolutely.
Beautiful. And in my world, I say that everything is always happening for us. In the moment, you might be like, how can somebody else hitting me on my bike be happening for me? With 2020 hindsight, you can completely understand how this happened for you. And it's happening for us to learn a lesson. And you learned your lessons,
Have
right?
I? I hope so.
Well, we're always learning. So you haven't learned every single lesson. However, you learned a lesson from that, which is what's got you to today and allowed you to come through all of that with all of this healing. And so that's absolutely
But I'm not going to go thank
beautiful.
the driver that hit me.
You don't need to do that.
No, that's one. I draw the line there.
You don't need to do that.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, what it's really done too is it's really helped me to, I don't want to say restore, but have faith in human beings, right? And that's another real message that Freedom Biker Tours, you know, I want to put out there, personally and professionally, is, you know, despite all the stuff that's going on and in the world, politically, materially, economically, whatever, all the negative stuff that's going on out there, I still have faith in human beings and you know, I deal with a lot of negativity every day. I mean, even on social media, you know, people hide behind social media so easily these days. And I get some negative comments about our advertising and that, but that's only maybe like 2, 3%. The rest
Right.
of it is all very positive, right? And that so it really has helped to restore my faith in human beings. You know, we are all inherently good
Yes.
out
Yeah.
there, right?
Yep.
Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that have had traumatic experiences in their life and they haven't dealt with them properly. And so therefore they come across, unfortunately, as negative or whatever, right? But I still have faith.
And remember that whatever somebody else is saying is based on their reality and it's
Hmm.
all about them anyway. It has nothing to do with you. So,
Isn't that called narcissism? I think maybe.
not even going to go down that
Yeah,
road.
right. Yeah, that's a whole
That's a
other
whole other
topic, right?
conversation.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. However, JD, I love to ask every single guest that comes on my show this question, and that is, what does don't wait for your wake up call mean to you?
Well, I didn't know you were going to ask me that question, so you kind of caught me flat-footed.
Perfect.
But yeah,
Whatever comes to the top of your head.
don't wait for your wake up call. Well, you know, I'm 2/3 through my life at this point. So I guess what I would say from an advice perspective is don't wait for traumatic events in your life to understand your wake up call or what you need to be a good human being and be your authentic self. and, accept the world for what it is and the good things that are in the world and the good people that are in the world. Don't wait for traumatic events to be a catalyst for that to happen. Do it now at whatever age you're in. I mean, if you're, what's the old saying? You're a silver spoon person or whatever, like you've had a great life, your family's never had any issues, you're healthy, you're an athlete, you've got lots of money, fine. But that doesn't make you the kind of person that's going to be your authentic self and accept people for who they are and understand people. So, everybody needs to do it now.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank
That
you.
makes sense?
It
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah, really well explained.
Yeah.
And so if anybody listening is interested in knowing about more about Freedom Biker Tours and the different tours that you offer and how they might be able to get on one, what is the best way for people to get hold of you?
Phone me. Love to chat with you. No, I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding. Absolutely phone me if you want or email me. But our website, freedombikertours.com. Is the easiest way. Everything's on there. Contact information, all about our brand, our values is on there. We also have a Facebook page, which is Freedom Biker Tours, and we have a YouTube channel, Freedom Biker Tours, and there's lots of really cool, fun videos on there as well that will engage you in who we are and what we're all about.
Beautiful. So I have all of that in the show notes so people can access that. And is there any last words of wisdom or anything that we haven't covered here today that you would like to share with the audience as we wrap up this fabulous episode?
It's never too late to start. Doesn't
Brilliant.
matter, doesn't matter what you're starting, it's never too late to start.
I love it. So simple and profound and true. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, JD, for coming on the show, sharing your stories, your wisdom, your learnings, and all about the healing power of riding bikes and Freedom Biker Tours. Really appreciate you having come here. And I also want to thank my audience for tuning in each and every week and learning about your health, prioritizing yourself on your journey.
Well, thanks, Melissa. It's been an honor to be on the show with you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. And let's do it again.
You are most welcome. And yeah, let's do it again. Love what you're offering. I'm excited to share with you a new program in 2025 that my training partner, Billy Admi, and I are launching. It is taking place in Q1 2025, and it will bring you to a master practitioner level of NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and NLP results coaching. And what this means is with this level of training, you will be able to guarantee your client results to them in writing. And no one else can do that as a coach. So it's very powerful. Throughout the 90 days, we won't be working together daily. However, we have trainings every week. You will be meeting your unconscious mind, designing your destiny, learning self-hypnosis and higher self-hypnosis, getting a 3-day designation in the Krasner style of hypnotherapist and start working with clients right away. Then we go into our 8-day practitioner level training of NLP, timeline therapy, hypnotherapy, and NLP results coaching. And we end with the master practitioner level of those 4 modalities as we continue to build your skills. Everything builds on itself all the way through the program. On the weeks that we don't have trainings, we have student check-ins, office hours where you can come, get your questions answered, and get the support that you need going through these programs. These designations are valid in 40 countries around the world, and all of this work is done on Zoom live with lots of experiential practice for you to be able to feel comfortable with the techniques when you complete the trainings. And lastly, because we teach it to you on Zoom, you can then go out and work with your clients on Zoom, which makes for a very low startup cost for you to literally be able to start working with clients immediately upon your successful completion of the training. For more information, check out the link in the show notes below.